I was browsing over a website today and I saw an article titled "How Playing MMOs Changed Me as a Gamer," and it definitely got me thinking. I've been playing MMOs, or more specifically MMORPGs, since 2005. That is 13 years as of 2018. I originally started playing MMORPGs as a teenager and have seen many MMORPGs rise and fall over that time. Over that time, the MMORPG genre itself has changed drastically, as have I. The article in question, published by MMO Bro, since I neglected to point that out earlier, went on to talk about reflecting on how their time playing MMORPGs changed them, and I can relate. How I play, the reason behind playing overall, what I do while playing, generally as a gamer, as a whole, I have changed quite significantly. When I used to play MMORPGs, and I'll go ahead and list my first two here since they were the first two that impacted my life the most, Tales of Pirates and Perfect World, I always made it a goal to hit Endgame as soon as I could. I joined MMORPGs back as a teenager and attempted to get to the end of the game as fast as possible so I could join the ranks of the elite, as it were. I wanted to be noticed, I wanted to be better than everyone else, so I made an effort to avoid anything but grinding to get that small margin ahead of anyone else. Granted, at the time there were plenty of players around at Endgame, but that didn't stop me in the least. It further went on to provide incentive for me to get my ass in gear and get there that much faster. In doing so, I would tend to ignore what each game had to offer. I'd ignore their large worlds, their social aspects of the MMORPG, like talking and grouping. I enjoyed forming relationships with people in guilds. I tackled it like a single player game. I did everything myself and I rushed as fast as possible, ignoring everything and everyone else. Admittedly, that is what this generation of gamers seem to sway towards doing as well, and MMORPGs are pushing that same mentality onto its players by making them so easy and casual. Upon the eventual obtaining of my ultimate goal, Endgame, what I wanted evolved into something more egotistical. See, both Tales of Pirates and Perfect World were PvP MMORPGs. In Tales of Pirates, you could PvP in open instance dungeons, arenas, large PvP maps. Whereas in Perfect World, you could participate in open world PvP and large territory wars. Both of these games were a breeding ground for the creation of huge ego, smack-talking, and children participating in pissing contests. And I loved it. I loved the idea of competing to show I was better than everyone else. See, when I first began playing MMORPGs, I used them as an escape from a terrible childhood. I used to play MMORPGs to get away from my real-life problems as a child, and this gave me an outlet. PvP gave me the outlet I needed. PvP gave me exactly what I wanted. So PvP became my life at the time. I participated in PvE only as a means to further myself in PvP. I became thoroughly obsessed with getting the best loot. I spent 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, grinding gold just to enchant my gear so I could be as competitive as possible. I was consumed with a slight boost in damage, a slight increase in HP, anything that could get me that seemingly insignificant margin ahead of anyone else. I remained on this course for a solid 2 years of playing Tales of Pirates, and that became my obsession when I moved on to Perfect World as well. After a time, however, I grew bored. I was never the best. I mean, how could I be? There was always going to be someone better, and I am not ashamed to admit that. However, I was as good as I could be, and I was happy with that. As I moved on to World of Warcraft in 2008, I was introduced to an experience I wasn't familiar with. See, what I'd been doing all this time was playing through Asian MMORPGs. MMORPGs imported over to the West that were grindy, PvP-focused, and void of substance. What World of Warcraft offered me at that time, which was when Wrath of the Lich King was just beginning, was a lore-rich world with so much to do, so much to see, and so much to learn. When I first entered World of Warcraft, I went Blood Elf, because naturally, they were by far the most attractive race, and obviously still are. I figured going in there wouldn't be anything special, but this was the MMORPG, as in the MMORPG that everyone was playing. The MMORPG that everyone was claiming changed the genre itself. What I was greeted by upon entering changed what I would want out of an MMORPG forever. Upon logging in after creating my character for the first time, I witnessed a plethora of characters ubiquitously populating an entire zone. Players running around, players doing quests, players killing monsters for that little additional bit of XP. They were talking, conversing with one another. I saw life, actual life in an MMORPG. Something I hadn't really taken into consideration was actually a thing based off of what I'd experienced up to this point. This provoked me to begin conversations with players. This prompted me to actually read a little into what was going on. There were players everywhere talking about what was going on with the story at this point. So it had me curious, and inevitably, I began to develop a slight change in my disposition towards story in MMORPGs. The more I played through World of Warcraft, the more I grew to enjoy the story that was unfolding. I felt like I was a part of what was going on. I enjoyed that for the first time. An MMORPG made me feel like I had a purpose. You were met with an ever-growing story that took you all over the world. Had you meet various characters that play a part in the grand story that is unfolding, or played a part in the story of the zone that you were in, something I hadn't experienced before. This helped me understand what happened to each zone, how each zone came to be. Some of the storylines connected with characters from the main story as well, detailing their backstories and giving you insight into who they are. Then, you had silly, downright ridiculous characters that to this day are still some of the funniest things I've come across in an MMORPG. Since that point, Blizzard has had an active subscriber in me. I've played through World of Warcraft every year since 2008, and I am an avid fan of Overwatch as well. But, of course, that is besides the point. I grew to appreciate the story that the game had to offer and the world the game was a part of. I began to enjoy reading through the silliness of some of the side quests and the ridiculousness of some of the things that played out. I felt like with this new sense of appreciation, I could go out and find new MMORPGs that could sate the desire to see and experience new things like WoW allowed me to. So, I left World of Warcraft having experienced something that changed how I perceive MMORPGs and what I wanted from them. So I began looking through various other MMORPGs for something that I would like. I found games like Silk Road Online, Fiesta, Fly, Florentia, and yes, I'm aware that there are a lot of MMORPGs starting with F in there. I swear that was not intended. All of them were more or less copy-paste clones of each other though. Start off nowhere with no real purpose, and just go off and grind. Just keep grinding until you're bored and inevitably log off and then come back and grind some more. I went through so many different MMORPGs looking for something that would allow me to experience what WoW did. And although nothing gripped me for quite a while like WoW, the fact is that I enjoyed exploring each world that I now found myself in. A lot of the games were fairly similar and offered nothing really in terms of something new or exciting, but that didn't detract from the fact that overall, I stopped worrying about being the best. I stopped worrying about rushing to Endgame. Instead, I enjoyed what each game had to offer. Some games had quirky visuals, some games had unique combat mechanics, and the occasional one was a hardcore PvP game. So, learning to enjoy the game is one of the most important lessons I learned. It is not about being the best, it is not about finishing things first. It is about playing the game, finding what you like about it, and enjoying everything it has to offer, because you eventually grow tired of it. We all do. And unfortunately, no MMORPG is capable of holding your attention forever, and thinking otherwise is just inane. Outside of the obvious, being the channel, the reason I play MMORPGs currently is to meet new people, experience new things, and continue my passion. My wife, Adrian, loves MMORPGs, and I love MMORPGs. We both enjoy progressing through new games because they're constantly evolving, and they always offer you something new to experience. We enjoy exploring, we enjoy the story, we enjoy running dungeons for new gear, and we enjoy duking it out in PvP as well. Granted, neither of us are really very good at our classes in any of the games we play, but we enjoy them nonetheless. So to sum all of this up, how have MMORPGs changed me as a gamer? Where I would originally rush to hit endgame to attempt to finish the game, where it attempt to be better than everyone else, normally ignoring everything the game had to offer, I now instead appreciate the game. I appreciate the journey to hit endgame. I appreciate hitting endgame and seeing what it has to offer with my wife. I enjoy looking at everything we have done and being satisfied that we've explored everything the game has to offer us. How have MMORPGs changed you as a gamer?
I hope you find what you've been looking